There is a quiet transformation that happens to certain people, and most of the world misunderstands it completely. One day, they stop chasing conversations that leave them empty. They stop forcing friendships that only exist because of history. They stop searching for approval from people who never truly see them. And slowly, their circle becomes smaller. From the outside, it may look like they are becoming distant. It may look like they are losing people. But behind that silence, a deeper psychological change may be happening. A person who once needed to be understood by everyone may reach a point where understanding themselves becomes more important. The most interesting part is that this transformation is not always caused by bitterness, anger, or disappointment. Sometimes it comes from growth. Some people spend years studying human behavior without even realizing it. They observe patterns. They notice emotional energy. They recognize when a connection is genuine and when it is only based on convenience. Over time, their standards change. They no longer measure their life by the number of people around them. They begin measuring it by the quality of the connections they allow into their world. This is one of the reasons why some highly self-aware personalities eventually find themselves with very few friends. They are not always running away from people. Many times, they are moving towards something deeper. They are searching for peace, honesty, and relationships that feel meaningful. The world often teaches people that having a large social circle means success. More friends, more invitations, more attention. But psychology reveals that human connection is not about quantity alone. The depth of those connections often matters far more than the number of names in a contact list. Throughout this video, we are going to explore why having no friends can sometimes become a final stage of personal development for a rare personality type. We will uncover the hidden reasons why some people naturally detach from shallow relationships, why they stop seeking constant validation, and why solitude can become a powerful part of their transformation. You will learn the difference between loneliness and intentional solitude, the psychological traits that separate emotionally mature people from those who simply avoid connection, and why some individuals become more peaceful as their social world becomes smaller. But there is a deeper layer to this topic that many people overlook. A person who reaches this stage often went through another version of themselves first. Before becoming selective, they may have been the person who always gave more than they received, the person who listened to everyone's problems, the person who stayed loyal even when others did not show the same loyalty in return. Their journey is not about suddenly becoming cold. It is often about finally recognizing where their energy deserves to go. One of the lesser-known truths about human personality is that increased self-awareness can completely change the way someone experiences relationships. When people begin understanding themselves on a deeper level, they also begin seeing their relationships differently. They start noticing repeated patterns. They notice who only appears during difficult moments. They notice who celebrates their success and who secretly feels uncomfortable with it. They notice which conversations create growth and which ones slowly drain their emotional strength. This awareness can create a major shift. The person who once tried to maintain every friendship may begin choosing carefully. They may stop explaining themselves to people who constantly misunderstand them. They may stop fighting for relationships where effort is one-sided. And this is the moment when others may misunderstand them the most. People may think they changed. They may think they became distant, but internally, that person may simply have stopped ignoring what they already knew. In this video, we will also explore why some of the rarest personality types are often misunderstood by society. They may appear quiet, but their minds are active. They may enjoy being alone, but they are not necessarily lonely. They may have fewer friends, but the relationships they keep are often built on trust, respect, and emotional depth. Their silence is not always emptiness. Sometimes silence is where they discover clarity. The biggest mistake people make is assuming that everyone needs the same amount of social interaction to feel fulfilled. Some people recharge through constant connection. Others recharge through reflection, learning, creativity, and personal growth. Neither path automatically makes someone better or worse. The important question is whether a person is choosing their lifestyle from confidence or from fear. By the end of this video, you will understand why some people reach a stage where losing certain friendships feels less like a loss and more like freedom. You will discover why a smaller social circle can sometimes be a sign of stronger boundaries, deeper awareness, and emotional maturity. You will also learn why the goal is not to reject the world, but to build a life where the people around you truly match your values. Because the rarest personality type is not defined by how many friends they have. It is defined by how deeply they understand themselves. And once a person reaches that level of awareness, they stop searching for people who simply fill space. They start looking for people who bring meaning. Welcome to Conscious Empath Hub, where we explore psychology, personality, emotions, and the hidden patterns behind human behavior. If you enjoy discovering the deeper side of the human mind, make sure to subscribe to the channel and join us for more videos that uncover the truths most people never notice. Stay until the end, because the final reason behind transformations may completely change the way you view people who choose a quieter life. The journey toward having fewer friends rarely begins with a desire to be alone. In fact, for many people who eventually become highly selective with their relationships, the beginning of their story looks completely different. They are often the people who care the most. They are the ones who notice small changes in someone's mood. They are the ones who remember details that others forget. They are the ones who make time for people even when their own lives are busy. Before they become selective, they are usually deeply available to others. Many people misunderstand this transformation because they only see the final stage. They see someone who has a small circle, someone who spends more time alone, someone who no longer attends every gathering or responds to every message. They assume this person became cold or disconnected, but they do not see the years before that moment. They do not see the emotional effort, the patience, and the countless times this person tried to build meaningful connections. Before someone learns the value of protecting their peace, they often learn the pain of giving too much. They become the person everyone comes to when life becomes difficult. Friends call them when they need advice. People open up to them because they feel safe. They become the listener, the supporter, and the person who tries to understand everyone's perspective. They naturally search for the reasons behind people's behavior. Instead of judging quickly, they look deeper. They ask themselves why someone acts a certain way, why someone struggles to communicate, or why someone pushes others away. This ability to understand people can be a beautiful quality, but without awareness, it can also become exhausting. A person with deep empathy may spend years making excuses for others. They may tell themselves that someone is just going through a difficult period. They may believe that if they show enough patience, enough kindness, and enough understanding, the relationship will eventually become balanced. They focus on the potential of people rather than the reality of how those people treat them. They see the good hidden inside others. Sometimes they see it more clearly than the other person sees it themselves. But there comes a moment when repeated experiences begin changing the way they view relationships. Not because they stop caring, but because they start noticing patterns. They begin realizing that understanding someone does not mean accepting everything from them. They begin realizing that having compassion for someone does not mean allowing that person unlimited access to their energy. They begin realizing that loyalty is valuable, but loyalty without respect becomes self-neglect. This is one of the most important stages in personal growth. A person starts moving from emotional availability to emotional awareness. They stop asking only, how can I understand this person? and they begin asking, how does this relationship affect me? That question changes everything. For a long time, some people measure the strength of a friendship by how long it has existed. They believe history automatically creates value. They think years of knowing someone should be enough reason to keep holding on, but time alone does not create a healthy connection. A friendship can last 10 years and still be emotionally empty. A relationship can have a long history and still lack honesty, support, or mutual effort. Eventually, emotionally aware people begin understanding that the age of a relationship does not determine its importance. The quality of the connection does. This realization is often painful because it forces them to see things they once ignored. They start noticing that some friendships only survive because they are the ones constantly putting in effort. They are the ones starting conversations. They are the ones checking in. They are the ones trying to repair problems. When they stop doing all the work, they discover something important. Some relationships were never as strong as they appeared. This can be a difficult truth to accept. Many people do not lose friends because of a major conflict. Sometimes friendships slowly disappear when one person stops carrying the entire relationship alone. When the constant effort disappears, the connection reveals its true foundation. And for someone who deeply values relationships, this realization can completely change their approach to friendship. They start becoming more observant. They pay attention to how people make them feel after interactions. They notice whether conversations leave them feeling understood or emotionally drained. They notice whether they can express themselves honestly or whether they must constantly adjust their personality to maintain acceptance. This does not happen overnight. It is usually the result of many small moments: a friend who only calls when they need help, a person who listens only when the conversation benefits them, someone who celebrates attention but disappears during difficult moments, a relationship where one person gives understanding but receives criticism in return. Each experience adds another piece of awareness. Eventually, they begin understanding that not every connection is meant to continue forever. Some people enter life to teach lessons. Some people enter life for a season. Some people remain because there is genuine mutual respect. The challenge is learning the difference. This is where many highly self-aware people begin changing. They stop trying to force every connection to survive. They stop believing that losing someone automatically means failure. They begin seeing that sometimes releasing a relationship is not an act of rejection. It is an act of acceptance. Acceptance that two people may no longer be aligned. Acceptance that effort cannot create a connection where there is no mutual care. Acceptance that some relationships are built on who someone used to be, not who they are becoming. This stage can feel lonely because growth often separates people before it introduces new connections. When someone changes their values, their boundaries, and their understanding of relationships, they may naturally move away from certain environments. Conversations that once felt normal may start feeling empty. Social situations that once provided excitement may start feeling exhausting. This is not because they suddenly believe they are better than others. It is because internal priorities have changed. A person who once searched for acceptance may begin searching for alignment. They no longer want to be liked by everyone. They want to be understood by the right people. This difference is subtle, but it creates a major transformation. Many people spend their lives trying to become more accepted. They adjust their opinions. They hide certain parts of themselves. They avoid conflict. They change their behavior depending on who they are around. But a highly self-aware person eventually reaches a point where pretending becomes more painful than being misunderstood. They realize that constantly performing a version of themselves just to maintain relationships slowly creates distance from their true identity. And this is where the first major shift begins. They stop asking, "How can I make everyone comfortable with me?" They begin asking, can I be myself around these people? That question becomes a filter. It changes the way they view friendships. Because a meaningful friendship should not require someone to constantly shrink themselves. It should not require them to hide their thoughts, silence their feelings, or ignore their needs. A healthy connection creates space for authenticity, but many people only discover this after experiencing relationships where authenticity was not welcomed. They learn that some people love the version of them that is always available, the version that always helps, the version that never says no, the version that never creates inconvenience. But when that person develops boundaries, the relationship changes. And this is where one of the most misunderstood parts of personal growth begins. When someone stops giving unlimited access to themselves, some people interpret it as a personality change. They say things like, "You are different now." But what they often mean is, "You no longer behave in the way that benefited me." Growth can reveal the true nature of relationships because boundaries change the way people interact with you. People who respect you will usually adapt. People who only valued your availability may disappear. This is why the first stage before having fewer friends is often not isolation. It is awakening. It is the moment when someone begins seeing relationships more clearly. They begin understanding that connection should not be measured by how much they can sacrifice. It should be measured by how much both people can contribute. And once this awareness begins, a deeper psychological shift starts taking place. The person who once tried to hold every relationship together begins realizing that some connections were only surviving because they were afraid to let go. They begin becoming comfortable with the idea that not everyone is meant to walk beside them forever. And that is where the next stage begins, the moment when awareness changes everything. The greatest transformation does not happen when a person learns how to attract more people into their life. It happens when they finally learn how to stop abandoning themselves just to keep others around. The rarest personality type is not the person who has no friends. It is the person who has learned the difference between being surrounded and being truly understood. They understand that a crowded room can still feel empty, and a quiet life can still feel deeply meaningful. They no longer measure their value by how many people choose to stay. They no longer chase attention from people who only appreciate them when they are convenient. Instead, they measure their life by how honestly they can exist, how peacefully they can move through the world, and how closely their relationships match their true values. Sometimes losing people is not a sign that you failed. Sometimes it is evidence that you finally stopped sacrificing your happiness to keep others comfortable. Growth changes the way you see connection. You stop begging for acceptance from people who do not understand you. You stop forcing conversations that have no depth. You stop holding on to relationships that constantly require you to become someone you are not. The strongest people are not always the ones who are surrounded by the most people. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who can sit in silence, look within themselves, and still feel complete. They understand that being alone is not the same as being empty. They understand that peace is not a reward you receive after everyone approves of you. Peace is something you create when you finally choose yourself. So if you have ever felt different because your circle became smaller, remember this. A smaller circle does not always mean a smaller life. Sometimes it means you have become more careful about what you allow into your world. The goal was never to have no one. The goal was to stop keeping people who made you lose yourself. If this message connected with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever reached a point where peace became more valuable than forced connections? I would love to hear your perspective. If you enjoyed this exploration of personality, emotions, and human behavior, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who may need to hear this message, and subscribe to Conscious Empath Hub for more psychology-based videos that uncover the hidden patterns behind the human mind. Remember, the right people will never require you to become smaller just to make them comfortable. Sometimes finding yourself means letting go of the connections that were never meant to define you.